Welcome to an all-new episode of SJHL Insider on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast, whether that be Apple or Spotify. Thank you so much for joining us, and we have a busy week to recap and a busy start of the week to recap and a busy weekend ahead in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. But before we get going, we have to give a big shout out to all of our great sponsors in the SJHL. Of course, our presenting sponsor is UPL for SJHL Insider, SJHL Weekly, all of our great shows across the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. So a big shout out to UPL for all the great support. And a big thanks to Bourgault, Cantera Seeds, Capital Auto Mall, Great Western Nutrient, RBC, Saskatchewan Construction Safety Association, Sask Lotteries, Tourism Saskatchewan, UPL, Sask Energy, SGU, SGI. Thank you so much for your support. Without your support, these shows would not be possible. Clark's here. Clark, how are we doing today?
Good. Busy week. Lots of stuff going on in my world, but exciting couple of games to start the week as well in the SJ.
Well, as they say, it's your world. We're just living in it.
Just living in it.
That's okay. Good to hear you're doing well. All right. You wanted to do the honors?
Yes. Let's get right into it because we do, as Jeromy mentioned, have a lot to get to with the hat trick. There it is.
Still need those hats.
Yeah, we still need those hats. So, Jeromy, we had a couple of games here to start the week.
We did.
Let's go.
Okay, so let's start with Tuesday, Halloween. We got a game on Halloween. That was exciting. We talked about it last week, how the at the West Central Event Center in Kindersley, the Kindersley Clippers were hosting the Nipawin Hawks. There we go. For Halloween, and the Clippers, 4 big goals in the third period. Picked up a 5-3 win. They bounce back. They get back in the win column. They earn their 4th win of the season. And a big win, big 2 points for the Clippers. Then on Wednesday, which was last night in Melfort, I was at the game. The Bruins knocking off the Melfort Mustangs by a score of 6-5. Fans in attendance definitely got their money's worth. I don't know how Trevor Blevins and Jason Tatarnik felt about the game, but a 6-5 win for the Bruins. And, of course, all of our look-backs are presented by Sask Lotteries. Clark, let's quickly talk about the Tuesday game, Nipawin and Kindersley. Kindersley, obviously, we talked about it on SJHL Weekly, how the Clippers are one of the 2 teams in the league who kind of have had the toughest schedules to start early on this season. But for them to return home to the West Central Event Center and pick up big 2 points, what do you think that means for them?
Yeah, huge for them. I mean, like you said, we've been talking about Kindersley as this team that I think a lot of us, and at least in the media side of things, expect to have a real kind of a breakthrough season after a couple of down years. And sure. We're starting to see some really nice contributions from some of their top guys now. Lately, Logan Linklater's been putting up lots of points. Tylen Hilbig's been putting up a lot of points. Keenan Ingram, had a nice night on Tuesday as well. So I think they are most of the time they're on a line together. So that big line for them is coming up big, and they're getting some good play from some of their depth guys as well. So for Kindersley, I think this is a huge win for them, and we'll see now if they can kind of take this momentum and push it into November as well.
Well, and the nice thing for the Clippers is now they just have one more game this week, and they're going to face the Yorkton Terriers, a team that's going to be coming in on their 3rd game in as many nights. So they'll take on the Terriers on Saturday. Let's talk about last night's game between Estevan and Melfort, a 6-5 win for the Estevan Bruins. As somebody who wasn't there, you watched the highlights.
Yeah.
What did you think of the game?
Well, I was going to say, Jeromy, you were there calling it. How did you see at the end of the night? Because these teams shot the lights out, Jeromy.
I don't think it was a goaltender's duel.
No, it was not. A lot of shots, a lot of goals, a lot of power play goals.
Yeah, a lot of power play goals. I think 5 in total.
Yeah.
Melfort's power play looks very good early on this season. You can see they whip it around pretty good, and Chase Freetmore's got a cannon of a shot. He had one last night. He probably could have had a lot more. But you know what? I think you have to give the Estevan Bruins a lot of credit to come back in the 3rd period, down 5-4 at a very difficult Northern Lights Palace. Trailing 5-4, get the tying goal in the first minute on the power play by Owen Barrow, and then Tristan Dussault was probably the best player on the ice for the Bruins last night. He had 3 points. And he gets the game-winning goal, and the Bruins hang on for a 6-5 win as they kick off, of course, 3 games in 4 nights. Now they get today off, and they're taking on L'Orange. But it's interesting. we had this discussion last week on the show about consistency among a lot of these teams. And now we're seeing, Estevan, for example, it was after that big win against Humboldt. They fall to Battlefords. Then they get the result against Melfort last night. And I think they're playing some really good hockey. And even talking to Jason Tatarnik last night, he said they were playing some very good hockey, but they're just not getting the consistent results. And that's something, obviously, that a lot of teams are currently battling with.
Well, and, maybe an underrated storyline, especially because they got off to such a hot start, is Melfort.
Yeah.
Speaking of consistency, they're 5-4-1 in their last 10. And there's been a couple of nights where we've said this insert team here is going to go play Melfort. This is a really big test for them. And, I think it was Melville last week or 2 weeks ago. And teams are getting these wins now in these last 10 games against Melfort. So I don't know if there's cause for concern considering they're still third in the entire league. But
here's what I'll say. There isn't.
There isn't.
And I'll say this just because of what I saw last night.
Yeah.
The players that were in the lineup for them last night looked very good, and they were missing a bunch of good players.
Fair enough.
Zach Summers did not play last night for the Melfort Mustangs. Aiden Hutchinson didn't play last night for the Melfort Mustangs. James Venn didn't get the start for the Melfort Mustangs.
Yeah.
And I don't think Coombs played bad for the Melfort Mustangs in between the pipes, but when you're missing... When the backup goaltender is getting the start, your starting goaltender is saved for tonight because Melfort has to travel to Flin Flon tonight, and then you have two of your top six forwards out of the lineup. I mean, those are some big losses.
Huge.
And the fact that they obviously continue to still produce, I think it'll be interesting to see where the Melfort Mustangs are when they're healthy.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing for them is to get healthy now because they're missing two of their biggest players.
Yeah, Aiden Hutchinson, come back. I need you on my fantasy team. Let's go. He's having a great season so far.
Yes.
When he's on the ice.
Yes, 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Let's move on to topic number two on the hat trick, which is let's take a look at the rookies in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. We like to do this every week, take a little different look at some different things in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. We've taken a look at the top scorers. We've taken a look at the top forwards, defensemen, goalies. Now we're going to look at the rookies. So let's take a look at the top 10 rookies in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. And, of course, leading the way right now is Connor Toohey of the Humboldt Broncos. We'll get into the players of the month later on. But Connor Toohey was the Direct West Rookie of the Month. But, of course, he leads the way for the rookies right now in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. He's been outstanding. I guess, Clark, when you look at the top 10, who stands out for you?
Yeah, there's one name in particular. A couple honorable mentions, of course, as I always do, Jeromy. But I'm going to go with Braden Sinclair. I think for a lot of time, coming into this season, we were looking at Battlefords as to who's going to replace all that production that they lost. That's been one of the biggest storylines. And you see Braden Sinclair there down in 7th, 11 points in 13 games. And for a lot of the time, he's been in the top 6 for them, if not the top line. So he's been having a great start to the year for them. On top of that, you see Carson Olsen right above him, his teammate, who's also having a really great start to the season. So those two guys for me, in terms of there was a huge opportunity for them and they went out and grabbed it, and they're putting up some big numbers for Braden Klamosko and the Battlefords North Stars.
I think that for me, the thing that stands out with this list is just the amount of defensemen
that
are on this list. And that to me is encouraging because to see not only a lot of these defensemen being obviously good in their own end, but also contributing offensively. And I mean, we talked to Rory about it, but Connor Toohey's been playing a lot of big minutes for the Humboldt Broncos. I mean, Ronan Buckberger has been just outstanding, the Ohio State commit as a 17-year-old. It really goes on and on. Carson Olsen, of course, we talked to Tanner Gold on Monday. He spoke very highly of Carson Olsen. The list goes on and on, but there's a lot of good rookies. And then another one that I'd like to quickly just touch on is Cole Keane of the Melville Millionaires. We talk about how Melville has been off to such a great start this season. And, Melville's getting contributions from, it seems like, everybody early on this year. And Cole Keane has been a big part of it. So good to see a lot of rookies stepping up early on this season. And I'm sure a lot of those rookies are going to get a lot of attention in about a week and a half at the SJHL Showcase.
The showcase is coming up. Scouts.
Yes.
Take a look.
I also realized I jumped the gun when it comes to the rookies, so I apologize to our team in the back. We were supposed to move on to the second topic, which was Players of the Month. I jumped the gun. That's on me. So now we'll talk about Players of the Month because that came out yesterday. So let's talk about the SJHL Players of the Month. It was for September and October. Usually September gets their own. However, this year, because the season was pushed back a week, there was only about 9 days of September. So we just combined September and October this year for the Players of the Month. So we'll start with the SGU MVP of the month. Coming from the Flin Flon Bombers, no surprise, Jacob Vockler, 12 goals, 14 games played, almost a goal a game. He's been outstanding.
Oh my gosh. And like, we'll talk about him and his couple other teammates as well coming up here, but you know, it was a hard decision really for this one because of how good some of his teammates were, but he has been such a rock for them coming back this season. You could tell he was going to take a huge step into that leadership role on that team. And, you know, he's done nothing but produce and put up big numbers for that team.
Yeah, I think the one thing that stands out for me when it comes to the Flin Flon Bombers, and especially the returning players, is you can tell they're very motivated. And they're not too happy about, obviously, especially the players that have been there for the last 2 years where they've lost in the finals the last 2 years.
Yeah.
They look very motivated early on. Moving on to Bourgault Forward of the Month, and Clark mentioned it, he teased it, but the Flin Flon Bombers got lots of attention on this list, and the Bourgault Forward of the Month was Alexi Silvestri of the Flin Flon Bombers. 9 goals, 15 assists. He has the most points right now in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League with 24, but Silvestri has been very good, of course. Last year, as a rookie in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League, he had 41 points. He's already up to 24.
Yeah. He was a guy, I remember talking to Jamie Neugebauer last year when we went to that playoff game in Humboldt. I said, next year, I could see Alexi Silvestri leading this league in points. And he's like, yeah, no, I mean, he's got all the tools. He's got the size. He's always in the right position. He has the offensive talent. You can see it when he's out there. And he's, shown that this year that not only is he a good complement piece like he showed last year with that Flin Flon team that was also very good, but he can take the lead as well. And right now he has literally taken the lead in points specifically.
Yeah. And rounding out the monthly awards for the Flin Flon Bombers is Super U Defenseman of the Month, Noah Houle, who at one point, I wrote this in the article on sjhl.ca, which you can see, but at one point Noah Houle was actually leading the league in points as a defenseman. But I mean, 3 goals, 19 assists, 22 points in 15 games. He's already passed his point total from last season in just the first month and change. He has taken a huge leap in his development and his growth as a hockey player this year.
Yeah, and we talked about last year's Flin Flon compared to this year's Flin Flon team. Reese Richmond last year was such a good producer for that team in terms of just putting up a ton of points.
Yes.
And we said, who's the next one? I think Rory called it, maybe it was in one of the SJHL weeklies earlier in the year, saying, I think Noah Houle is going to take a huge step. And look at this. He's had such a big year, and I was able to see him when we went down to that Estevan game, and he just looked so impressive. And there's a lot of impressive players on that team,
sure.
And he's put his impact on the team has put a stamp as well.
Well, you have to, with Houle, you knew somebody was going to potentially step up for the Flin Flon Bombers on the blue line because of how many defensemen they lost during the offseason.
Yeah.
Just pulling up their roster from last year, Lucas Fry,
so good,
gone. Alex von Sprecken, gone. Reese Richmond, gone. Corey King, gone.
It's an all-star team.
It's a team with a lot of experience on the blue line. And as a result, there wasn't many. And I think that was the question mark, I think, going into this season for the Flin Flon Bombers early was their D-core with a lot of not many returning players in their starting 6 from last year. But Noah Houle has just been outstanding for them. Coming back, taking a big step in his development. All right, moving on to Direct West Rookie of the Month. We mentioned him earlier, Connor Toohey of the Humboldt Broncos. He currently leads all rookies in points as a defenseman, 4 goals, 14 assists, just a couple of points back, actually, of Noah Houle, obviously, for leading the league in defenseman points. But the thing with Toohey is not only is it his first year in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League, but he's been forced into playing in a huge role early on this season just because early on this season the Broncos have had some injury problems on the blue line, and Tui has definitely stepped up.
Oh, absolutely. And it's kind of in a similar vein to what we just talked about with Flin Flon, too. There was a couple openings in that Humboldt Broncos blue line from last year as well. And, I was expecting we were going to be talking a lot about Dalen Weigel this year, and we probably still will throughout the season. But Connor Tui has taken the headlines by storm.
Well, to be fair, Weigel was one of those players that was hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
He returned to the lineup last week.
That's why I mean, I think throughout the year, we'll probably talk about him quite a bit. But Connor Tui has been not shy to take the headlines in Humboldt, and I'm sure that they're happy about that.
Yeah, he's been a big reason why they haven't. They lead the league in the least amount of goals against right now in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. And another big reason for that is SaskTel Goalie of the Month, Ben Motu, which is interesting because, we've seen, I think we've handed out, 5 Players of the Month awards right now early on this season. And Ben Motu has not received a SaskTel Goalie of the Week award. However, I can safely say in our discussions when we decide the Players of the Week awards, Ben Motu's been he's a top 2 or 3 candidate every single week. And he's easily been the most consistent among all the goaltenders in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. Early on, it was Dazza Mitchell. And then, obviously, you saw the Flin Flon Bombers, 2 netminders, Harmon Laser-Hume, Kenneth Marquardt, Justin Merrick won 2 awards. But Ben Motu's been the most consistent of the bunch, and he's well-deserving. Look at his numbers, 8-0-2-1, a 1.78 goals against average, a 932 save percentage. You're going to win a lot of hockey games with goaltending like that. Yeah,
and I mean, in his regard, sometimes 4 or 5 silver or bronze medals are better than 1 or 2 gold medals. You know what I mean? He's always been right in the conversation. And, chances are, if we go back a couple of weeks, it could have gone either way, to be honest. And, he's been nothing but be consistent for that team. And I remember talking about him last year as a guy who kept his name kept popping up throughout the year. And then now he's taken the reins of that team and he's really run with it. And I don't think he's leaving any doubt.
Yeah, and I think he was going to get SaskTel Goal at the Week Honors last week, but then Carl Sonev had an outstanding performance against Melville Millionaires on the Sunday, which kind of altered the decision making. But we also talked about Motu, and I mentioned this on the show on Monday. But as an 18-year-old, to be the starting goaltender in the postseason for your hockey team, playing the Flin Flon Bombers second round of the playoffs, despite them losing, that experience is going to go a long way for them.
Oh, absolutely.
For him.
Yeah, anytime you can get, especially like you said, 18-year-old, that's so key. And we have such a good returning group of goalies in the entire league, and to see him kind of take the entire league by storm the way he has, with all the other impressive names that have come back, and he's the one, to start the season that we're talking about so often. It's great to see, and it's huge for Humboldt.
All right, and finally, Saskatchewan Player of the Month, Mason Buchert of the Larange Ice Wolves, of course. It's interesting. Obviously, Larange has been up and down. They've been more, consistent lately. A lot of the big reason for that is their 7-game homestand. But the one thing that Larange hasn't struggled with, Clark, this year has been putting the puck in the back of the net. And I mean, Mason Buchert has 7 goals, 14 assists, 21 points in 16 games played. The 19-year-old from Saskatoon is off to a really good start this year.
Yeah, they're near the top in terms of scoring goals. So, and we'll see that in a minute here as well. But, it's been an impressive offensive season for them, and now they just have to find a way to pull everything else together and put it all together at the same time. Right. And Mason Buchert's going to be a huge part of that. He's such an offensive driver for that team, and it's great to see, especially the Saskatchewan talent. There was a lot of options for the Saskatchewan talent across the league for this month's Sask Player of the Month, and but at the end of the day, he's been so impressive for that team, and he's stood out quite a lot.
Well, I mean, he's 4th in the league in points right now.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because when you look at kind of the top, I would say the top 10 scorers in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League right now, you're obviously seeing a lot of players on the top teams. But to see Mason Buchert elevate to 4th, despite his team right now being tied for 8th, I think it speaks to how well he's playing.
Yeah, oh, for sure. And, he's got some good offensive talent around him. We talk William Forsberg. We talk Jacob Cossette a lot. We talk about some of the other players around him, some of the defensemen who can move the puck really well. But at the end of the day, he seems to be the one that always seems to be that consistent driving force. And I think he's going to be a huge part of this. We've talked about it a few times throughout the season so far. This Larange will figure it out. I think he's going to be a huge part of that. Larange will get it sorted out.
Well, I think, to be fair, we've also been saying that about a lot of teams right now in the SJHL.
That's
and
fair.
with that being said, only 8 can make the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly.
So time will tell.
Yeah.
So congratulations to all 6 players for the Players of the Month awards. Of course, if you want to learn more about all 6, you can head to sjhl.ca to learn more information. I know the hat trick's usually 3 things.
Yeah.
But today it's 4 because we don't have a guest. So it's a hat trick plus 1.
Yep.
But this one's a fun one. We're going to do our first Goals for KidSport update. Of course, the Goals for KidSport campaign has been ongoing with Sask Energy, KidSport, the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League for quite some time. Of course, $20 for every home goal scored by a home team in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League will be donated to KidSport up to 1,000 goals. 1,000 times by 20, Clark, is
20,000.
20,000. Good job. So
I
$20,000
really
each and
freaked out
every
when you
year
snapped.
going to KidSport. And I think, let me look actually quickly on the website. So far to date, over $230,000 has been raised for KidSport over the span of this partnership because the partnership's over 10 years old.
Yeah.
So let's get an update. Our first update when it comes to the Goals for KidSport, the KidSport Cup standings, and right now leading the way, the Melfort Mustangs.
Mm-hmm.
They scored a bunch last night. They added to their lead last night, actually. 5 goals. A lot of goals scored at home early on this season, the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. And actually, you remember when we chatted with Alex on the show, the second episode of SJHL Weekly or SJHL Insider this year, and that was when Melfort just came off their first night of the year. They scored 8 at home.
Right. Yeah.
They're pretty happy to see all these goals scored at home. And the interesting thing is, obviously, when you look at the games played, some teams have definitely played a lot more home games than others.
Yeah. There's going to be some catching up to do for that in that department for sure. Especially you see Notre Dame, like they had such a crazy start to their season, and it shows they're right down at the bottom in terms of home games played. So
well, and same with the Balfords North Stars.
Yeah.
They've been on the road for a majority of the start of this season, but they're going to trying to defend their KidSport Cup because, of course, they won last year. They are home to Yorkton this weekend for a pair of games. And I do believe right now, I think my math was, we're at about 280 or so goals scored right now. So that's past a quarter.
Yeah.
Quarter of the way to 1,000. It's over $5,000 raised so far early on this season, which I feel like that's ahead of pace.
It feels like it. I mean, I'm not sure the exact number, but it does feel
because
like
I feel
we're
like
ahead of the
last
pace.
year the goal for Goals for KidSport was scored early February, the 1,000th goal at home.
Yep.
So I think we are ahead of schedule. We could see it. Usually it's scored end of January, early to mid-February. But maybe we'll see it earlier this year because the offense at home for the home teams, especially early on this year, has been extremely high. But obviously this is a great partnership with Goals for KidSport, Sask Energy, KidSport, Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League as it continues. Worth mentioning, the next KidSport game night. You're a big fan of the KidSport game nights.
Love them. Everything is good about them.
You tell me all the time how much you love them.
Have I told you my story about when I worked in the league?
You have told me that story almost once a
I know
week.
I've told you, but I can't remember. I've said it
you
on the show,
have
I'm
told
pretty
that story probably 5 times
Yeah.
on SJHL programming.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. Well, it's worthy of telling.
Once you've heard it the first 3 times, I don't know if you.
I don't know.
Anyways,
shout out to KidSport.
what I was going
and
to
Sask
say
Energy.
is the next KidSport game night is also this weekend. Do you want to guess where it is?
Oh shoot.
I mean, you got 11 guesses,
Oh boy.
but some have already happened.
yeah, you tell me because I don't.
Just
I'm
guess.
Well, I have to
Just guess.
If
If you look at the schedule,
Kindersley.
yes, you got it.
First try.
West Central Event Center,
First
Kindersley.
try.
That's why I said guess. Have some confidence.
Here's
in
the thing.
yourself.
I knew that all along, and I just made it look like I guessed, but I knew it all along. How about that? Do you believe me?
No.
Okay.
I know you didn't. That's lying. Yes. Saturday, West Central Event Center, when the Kindersley Clippers play host to the Yorkton Terriers. It is a KidSport game night. So if you're in the area, it's going to be even more fun. It's going to be a great hockey game.
Gonna be a blast.
KidSport game night. Lots of fun at the West Central Event Center.
Tons.
Always a great rink to watch a hockey game in, too. With that being
With
said,
new seats. Oh, I got to get up there.
yeah, the new seats I feel like we've touched on it, but the new seats are looking really good.
Yeah.
And they're not done.
Right.
They're not done. Like they're adding, I think Commissioner Kyle McIntyre said I want to say they added 400, 500 this year.
I have 500.
And then
like
they're going
number,
to add more next year, which is great.
I gotta
that is
get there.
a great rink to watch hockey in.
Yeah. Really
to
is.
say the least. Now, this week is a busy one. It has been a busy one already. We've already had the 2 games. We got 2 games tonight in the SJHL. Melfort visits Flin Flon. Of course, the Mustangs looking to try and bounce back, Clark, after that loss last night at home to the Estevan Bruins. And then also the Yorkton Terriers kicking off 3-3 as they visit the Battleford's North Stars. Then Friday night in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League, 4 games on the schedule. Notre Dame at Melville, Humboldt at Nipawin, Yorkton at Battleford, Estevan at Larange. And then Saturday, Nipawin and Humboldt. Of course, they're playing a home-and-home, Clark. Melville and Notre Dame. They're playing again. It's a home-and-home, but it's a neutral site game on Saturday. Do you want to guess where it is?
Oh, shoot. I know I know this one, too. You're testing me today. My brain is so scrambled, Jer. I'm going to have to say no, I don't know where this one is, but I do.
What if I told you the first letter?
Yeah, I might. Well, there's a lot of... Yeah, sure. Let's
It
do
starts with an L.
An L. Frick. I should watch my language. Be careful with that. It starts with an L. Nope. I'm gonna back out.
It's in Lumsden.
Knew it.
It's in Lumsden. Another neutral site game for the Notre Dame
I saw a
Hounds.
post
Lumsden.
about it.
And then Yorkton and Kindersley, as mentioned, and then Estevan and Larange playing another game at the Mel Saturday night. No game Sunday.
No game Sunday.
As always, Clark.
Yep.
I ask you at the end of each episode to pick your. I will let you also include the games tonight, Thursday.
Yeah.
Pick your game of the weekend.
It's really, really, really hard not to go with Melfort and Flin Flon tonight. I mean, that's such a big game. 2 of the top 3 teams in the league.
Sure.
So I won't. I will go with that one. I won't go away from that one.
So you are going with it, or you're not going with it?
No, I will go with it.
Oh, okay.
There are some other games that I was, thinking about and humming and hawing, but at the end of the day, this is the heavyweight battle of the weekend. So I have to go with Melfort Flin Flon.
Weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The long form of a weekend.
I'll say this. I prefer when there's games like this on like Thursday, whereas compared to having games like Thursday off and then games on Sunday.
Sure.
I much prefer that. I like my Sundays off.
Yeah.
It's nice to get a
Sunday
day of
fun
rest for from the hockey. Okay, so you're going to take Melfort and Flin Flon tonight.
Yeah, with the caveat that there's a couple that I would have also
Whitney
gone
Forum.
with.
There's a couple interesting
always
matchups. Like I am curious to see. I think it's a big weekend. I think Rory mentioned it on Monday. I think it's a huge weekend for Yorkton. 3-3 on the road. Balfords and Kindersley. Especially coming off that 3-2 overtime victory over the Melfort Mustangs. See if they can build off that. Especially because despite the struggles by the Yorkton Terriers, they're still in it in the Viterra division.
100%.
They're still in it. They're only 2 points behind Estevan.
Yeah.
They're only 6 points behind their Highway 10 rivals, the Melville Millionaires. They're only 7 points back of the Weyburn Red Wings with a game in hand. So, it's...
And you're starting to see, too, with Yorkton, too, like Emery Olesen, he's starting to kind of start to tinker with his team a little bit as well. And
sure.
I just think that he's just getting comfortable in himself. We talked about this with Benny Walchuk last week. Just how, he came in so late and he's still finding his way to get his team the way he wants it. So holding out for Yorkton because, like you said, they're not out of it, and this could be a huge weekend for them to kind of get that ball rolling.
I think anytime a team plays 3-3 or 3-4, it's always big. Like I had mentioned it last night for Estevan to get 2 points to kick off your road trip. Now going into Larange, there isn't any pressure, as much pressure to, we lost the first one. We got to get some points definitely for sure in these next 2. Like we've got at least a couple. Now we tried to build off of it. That's actually going to be where, I was flip-flopping between 2, but I'm going to actually go with Estevan and Larange. Doesn't matter which game.
Yeah.
Because they play twice. I'll say Estevan Larange just because the one thing that stands out for me, obviously, between this matchup between these 2 teams is they have the same amount of points.
Yeah, they're tied.
They have the same amount of points right now in the SJHL standings. The Bruins 5-6-0-2. L'Orange 5-9-1-1. Yes, L'Orange has played a few more games, but I think for the Ice Wolves, this is a big 2 games, obviously, to continue to build some positive momentum from this 7-game homestand that they're currently 3-1, 0-1, I do believe, on. You want to finish this homestand on a high. Mm-hmm. You want to get some points. And then for the Bruins, obviously, coming off that win in Melfort, it wasn't the prettiest of games. It wasn't the cleanest of games when it comes to, being responsible in your own end, not making mistakes. But a win's a win at the end of the day.
Yeah.
If you can find a way to get 2 points, you're going to be happy that you found a way, whether you played to your best ability or you're not. You just found a way to win. And if the Bruins can continue that and get some big points on the weekend, maybe this is exactly what they needed to potentially kind of be where we think they're going to be. Because you look at their roster and it's almost like it's hard to believe that they're below 500.
Well, yeah, and I mean, if you look at the schedule for this weekend too, if I'm not blind, Weyburn doesn't play this weekend. So
well, actually, Weyburn's got they have about 9-10 days off.
Weekend off here. So, like, if you look at the standings and you add 4 points to Estevan, they are right there with Weyburn. Now, I know divisions aren't necessarily always the be-all, end-all, but just in terms of, there is that rivalry there, and getting a jump in the standings, it puts them right behind where Weyburn is. So, it's a big weekend for both teams, and with the way that they're tied, basically for that last spot in the playoff race right now, which is very early. It's a monumental, I would say, monumental weekend for both teams. It could be a huge springboard for either one if they play their cards right.
Yeah, I don't think a bad weekend definitely doesn't put you out of it or anything like that. But a good weekend can vault you into potentially getting on the right foot for sure. And one thing I want to just talk about, I guess, just before we kind of wrap things up is, we touched on big weekend for Estevan and L'Orange, big weekend for Yorkton.
Yeah. And
then Melville plays a home-and-home with Notre Dame. Again, I think we've mentioned it on this show a few times. We've mentioned I know we've mentioned it on SJHL Weekly. I don't know if we have directly on this show, but I don't know what to predict in that Viterra division. It's just so nutty because, I mean, only 7 points separate first and last. It's going to be the tightest, congested division in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. And I do think it's going to be like that all year, because you look how well Yorkton's played Weyburn this year. You look how well Melville's played Estevan. I mean, Estevan and Weyburn played a couple of close games that, Weyburn got the upper hand early on in the season. This is going to be a crazy division to keep an eye on, and obviously it's a big weekend for Melville, Estevan, and Yorkton, and meanwhile Weyburn, you're going to be watching the out-of-town scoreboard. Yeah,
Weyburn's got the popcorn machine ready to go, and they're just going to hang out.
Nick's popping it right now.
Oh, yeah, like they're getting it ready.
Yeah.
They got the butter ordered for the mass order of butter coming in to put on the popcorn, and they're getting ready for a nice little weekend because there's a lot of action happening, and, a lot of it doesn't directly affect them, but indirectly it affects them quite a lot. So, it's a big weekend for all 4 of those teams in a way. But it's going to be interesting to see how the cookie crumbles over the weekend here.
You know what? Funny you say cookie crumble. Last time I saw our good friend Nick Nielsen.
He was eating a cookie?
No, he was crushing a cookie crumble frappuccino from Starbucks. And I said, "Wow, that's a beverage there."
Yeah, is
Starbucks,
it a beverage or a
us.
dessert?
No free ads, but I could just picture Nick crushing one of those, enjoying a nice cookie crumble frappuccino.
Yeah,
while watching some SJHL hockey this weekend and keeping.
Can I come?
Well,
sounds like a great time.
You could do it yourself.
Yep, it's true.
You could.
Yep.
Busy weekend in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey. Actually, you know what? Comparatively, compared to past weekends, not as busy. Really. I mean, only 4 games Friday, and what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 games Saturday.
Yeah, 10
it's
total.
It's actually a quiet weekend.
If you count Thursday, 10 total, but usually.
Okay, so how about...
But there's usually 12 or, depending on the Sundays and stuff.
Yeah, well, last weekend there was 12 between 3 days. So I mean, 10 in the next 3 days.
It's a slow weekend.
Yeah,
I like that.
Wow. For some of us, it's not. But
Yeah.
But if you are in the area of any of these teams, obviously go out to your local rink, support your local team, because we talked about the parity last year in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. This year, I think it's even closer. I think it's even closer than last year. So be sure to get out to your local rink, support your local teams. If you can't, you can tune in to all the hockey action on Flow Hockey this year. Get your subscription now. And, of course, to stay up to date with everything in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League this year, you can, of course, like us on Facebook, follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's where you find the highlights, the shows, the features, and whatever else we come up with, to be honest with you.
Stuff all the time.
Yeah, shout out to everybody for subscribing to the YouTube channel. It has grown very quickly. We appreciate it. And we also have to give a big thank you to all of our great sponsors at the SJHL. Of course, UPL is our presenting sponsor of SJHL Insider, SJHL Weekly, Playoff Preview Show, really any show that we produce. UPL, presenting sponsor. So thank you so much, UPL. But also a big thanks to all of our other great sponsors, Bourgault, Cantera Seeds, Capital Auto Mall, Great Western, Nutrien, RBC, Saskatchewan Construction Safety Association, Sask Lotteries, Tourism Saskatchewan, UPL, Sask Energy, SGU, SGI. Thanks so much for your support. Without your support, these shows would not be possible. Clark, final thoughts before we go?
You know what? The storylines are abundant, and I can't wait to see how they all come together on SJHL Weekly next week as we talk about it on Monday.
And in a week and a half, the SJHL Showcase.
Yes.
We haven't teased that yet, but I mean, the SJHL Weekly is literally in a week and a half.
Yeah.
So we got this weekend. Yeah, next week, Friday, Saturday, day off, Showcase.
We're coming. We're on our way.
I have a really fun game for us next week on SJHL Insider.
Oh, good.
And it involves the SJHL Showcase.
Okay.
But I'm not going to tell you any more about it.
I'm excited.
It's called
that
surprise.
I was going to say that is a teaser.
That
is a cliffhanger.
Yes, that is what they call a tease.
Yeah.
In the biz.
In the business.
So stay tuned for that on SJHL Insider next week. But that should do it for us this week on SJHL Insider. 10 games over the course of the next 3 days. So again, make it out to your local rink. Check out the local or your local team. A lot of great hockey taking place in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. If you can't, you can tune in on Flow Hockey. For Clark Munroe, my name is Jeromy Corrigan, and this has been another great episode of SJHL Insider across the SJHL YouTube channel, Apple, Spotify. Thanks for tuning in, and enjoy the games this weekend, everyone.